The Genius of Sergei Eisenstein by Brian McGovern. Sergei Eisenstein was a Soviet film director, born in 1895. He is famous for his theory of montage and his films. He directed Battleship Potemkin, Alexander Nevsky, Ivan the Terrible Part 1, and others. His film Ivan the Terrible Part 2 was criticized by the Soviet government and would not be released until years later. The third movie was never to be finished, and Eisenstein died in 1948. Eisenstein uses montage and single images to transport the viewer to the event and add realism and depth to his movies. Eisenstein is able to recreate historical scenes by showing the viewer many different images and perspectives from one event. In his book, Montage Eisenstein, Eisenstein says, using the montage method of the exposition and construction of the film as a whole makes the actor's performance as well as environment sparkle with life. The first sequence to talk about is often regarded as his most famous. The Odessa Steppes sequence in Battleship Potemkin is a great use of montage, and Eisenstein is able to add realism to the scenes using choreography and acting. The action begins and we see people running down the stairs, and in the initial shot we see just the legs of the fleeing civilians. Then we see frames of the civilians running from far away and can see they are going all different ways. This gives the sequence a non-scripted feeling which helps makes it feel real. People start falling down sporadically. This is followed by the backs of the soldiers as they menacingly approach the fleeing crowd. The chaos invoked by the scene also gives it a sense of realism. When the woman with the baby carriage is shot, we see a close-up of her face. She cries out and in this one image conveys her despair and the pain she feels from being wounded in the stomach. The actress is given just a few seconds to convey this emotion, but the quickness of the shot gives it realism. The scene makes the viewer feel as if they too are running down the steps and just getting glances of the unfolding chaos. He achieves this effect by showing the viewer different frames that are all from different perspectives. It's as if the viewer sees what the actors see. In Alexander Nevsky, the use of montage is also able to give life to the Battle of the Ice. As Nevsky and his men await on the ice for the Teutonic Knights, Sergei Eisenstein is able to make the viewer feel the cold of the battlefield. The men await on the frozen lake and stare out into the vast ice-covered wasteland. The camera shows close-ups of several men looking off into the distance, awaiting the war, and the viewer can see the steam that comes from the mouth of some of the men. This detail is important because it helps create a chill in the viewer and transport them to the battlefield. The steam invokes realism, and this one image sends chills to the viewers. The sequence begins slow, and the viewer has a sense of anticipation that rises with the appearance of the Teutons. They appear slowly and come into view as they appear on the horizon. As they get closer, the camera closes up on them, and we see the enemy charging on horses. However, we don't see this close-up of the Teutons until they are close enough for the characters to see them. This gives the viewer the impression that they are waiting on the battlefield, as we can only see what the characters do. Then it shows the characters awaiting the attack react, and once again the viewer is transported into the scene. Eisenstein is able to bring the sequence to life by showing the charge and the reaction of the protagonist to this monstrous force. All in all, Sergei Eisenstein was able to evoke emotion in his audience through his use of montage. He is able to transport the viewer to these different scenarios and help us relate to the story through background and images, as well as acting.